My BF left me behind at a stranger's house on accident. Need advice on where to go from here. Me, 20F, and my BF, 21 meters, of 3 years went out for drinks last night. We are in Westhouse, so no COVID restrictions. My BF saw a guy who he hasn't seen in 3 years, and he invited us to a party. We ended up back at this guy's house to wait for a taxi and I started feeling sick. My BF followed me to the toilet and I said, I'm so sick, I can't go out. Can we please just go back to yours? And he said yes, okay, and then went back outside. I came out and no one was there except the guy's mum, who said that everyone was leaving. I thought my BF must just be saying goodbye, but it turns out he left with them. I was really sick by that point and decided to walk back to my BF's house, which was terrifying as a woman at 12 AM. Unfortunately there are no Ubers here. I called my BF, who hadn't realized up until then that I wasn't in the taxi with him and his friends. He said his mate told him hurry up, everyone is in the taxi. So he presumed I was there too. I spent the next few hours vomiting and crying haha, until he came back at 2 AM. And then left me again to go back to his mate's house because he apparently couldn't deal with me being so upset. I begged him to please stay, but he said he wasn't going to be gone for long. He was gone for another 2 hours. In the morning I was expecting an apology, but he started blaming it on me, saying it was my fault that I had to walk home by myself because the mum was apparently happy to drive me. My BF said because nothing happened to me on my walk home I had nothing to be sad about. I continuously asked for an apology, but he wouldn't give me one because apparently I could have done so many things better. He was saying in 3 hours I'll feel so sorry and regretful, but I just don't right now. I feel so hurt and angry and sad that it even happened in the first place. I feel so betrayed and unwanted and mistreated. What kind of boyfriend leaves their girlfriend at a stranger's house while she's drunk and sick right after she had just said can we please go home, and then doesn't notice that she's not in the taxi until 15 minutes later, and then tries to make me feel guilty over it and say it was my fault. And after all that I still can't even find it in myself to leave him. Too long didn't read. My BF left me drunk and sick at a stranger's house because he didn't realize I wasn't in the taxi with him and his friends. I had to walk home in the dark by myself. I'm seeking advice on where to go from here. I'm not sure if I'm overreacting or if this should be considered a deal breaker. I really don't want to break up, but I feel like I have to because I'm so hurt. This is absolutely a deal breaker. Everything about this screams red flag. I would be gone so fast. Your feelings are 100% valid, and don't you let him convince you otherwise. Thank you, I really appreciate that. It's useful to get someone else's opinion so I know I'm not being unfair, so thanks so much. This is an absolute deal breaker, no questions asked. Every single choice he made here was the wrong one, and he wants to turn it around on you. Drop this man. He cares more about partying with his friends than you. Seriously, how the fuck did he not notice you were gone? What he couldn't deal with were the consequences of his enormously shitty actions. I almost wonder if this post is actually real. He sounds so bad. I promise you, girl, there are guys out there who will drive you home, get you food, and get you medicine. Most guys will do this, actually. Edit. I know it's hard to end a long-term relationship, but that's the sunken cost fallacy. Just because you wasted a couple years with him, you shouldn't have to waste even more. Don't put a cap on your happiness. You will do better. Huge red flags all over this. His behavior isn't okay. It's almost if he is gaslighting you. How could he not know you weren't in a taxi with him? You need to reevaluate this relationship. His lack of empathy and caring in this situation is really disturbing. I'm sorry such a horrible thing happened to you. Deal breaker, dump his ass. He's not worth it. Thank you, I appreciate it. I know that is what I have to do, but it sucks to see 3 years of my life gone nowhere, ha ha ha. Thank you for replying. Sounds like you got a self-centered idiot of a boyfriend who don't give a damn about your safety and cares more about having fun with his mates that seem to be the same as him. You should dump him, as I don't know anyone would do any of that to a woman. BF doesn't care about my interests. I'm curious, are you supposed to be interested in your so's interests, or are there some things you don't share BC you know they're not into them? To me, I take interest in my BF's interests because they're important to him, so nothing he talks about is irrelevant to me. But to him, he thinks that because I'm not interested in CrossFit, for example, that there's no reason for him to talk about it. This started BC I was talking about my plant and he just literally told me he didn't care, and it really hurt my feelings. To me, even if you don't care, as a so you should still love and respect the other person enough to take a basic interest and listen. Thoughts? I think this goes a little bit both ways. I'm into tech. My GF isn't. So if I start ranting to her about all the stuff with tech, she might say something, yeah okay, shall we go do backslash now? And then I'm back into reality and think, oh yeah, sorry, I might have gotten a bit carried away. I think that's normal. You don't have to share the same interests. That's perfectly fine. But his comment "I don't care" is very harsh and blunt. He could have used a little bit more tact. But don't make too big of a deal out of it. There might be something going on in his life that was going around in his head, and he just made a snarky comment that wasn't meant to hurt so bad. Have you mentioned to him that his comment hurt your feelings? He might not know it hurts you so bad, and he might feel bad about it. My BF absolutely love video games. I'm not extremely knowledgeable or very good at them, to be perfectly honest, and it's definitely not how I would choose to spend my free time, but I love how excited he gets when he teaches me and shares his passion. We end up doing it together pretty often, and I know he appreciates when I try to learn the lingo so I can compliment him. Frankly, someone who really loves you won't be rude or act bored if you are sharing something with them that's important to you. That's basic respect. Likewise, I'm super into music and horror movies, and he makes a constant effort to keep up with the things I love because that's what sharing a life together is about. I'm sorry if he made you feel unheard or uninteresting, and I hope that he was just having a shitty day and doesn't actually feel that way. You don't need to completely share each other's interests, and it's good to be aware and considerate when talking about things you know your partner is uninterested in. But it's also good and appropriate to want to know about the things your partner is into, and to enjoy hearing about something just because they're excited to talk about it. My girlfriend is always excited to tell me about gross medical things. She works in medicine, that if anyone else told me about I wouldn't want to hear, but I love listening to her talk about it because she gets so into it and is showing sides of herself I don't otherwise see. Your boyfriend sounds like he's not just uninterested in your hobbies but also disrespectful and maybe not sufficiently interested in you, or at least isn't currently showing whatever respect and interest he might have. It's one thing not being interested in the actual hobby but still listening and being an ass and making you feel bad talking about things you enjoy. My ex would make me feel bad about doing my nails so often and would pass it off as shitty jokes, but it hurt because I'm passionate about it and it helps me relax and feel creative. Also, you don't have to like and do everything your so doesn't have separate alone hobbies, but it comes back to the at least listening if you're expected to do the same with his. You have to show some interest in what they are doing, but by no means do you have to be into it as much as they are. My ex-wife, for example, was huge into saltwater aquariums. I wasn't that into it, but I was into carpentry. So I was able to merge our interests by building things she needed for her hobby, making my partner who is an abuse victim feel safe and comfortable. I, 23F, am seeing someone, 25M, who was abused growing up. Without going into details, his father hurt him, his siblings and his mother, and refuses to acknowledge the abuse. My partner has since gotten out of it and confronted his father and such, and is helping his siblings and mother. However, I'm more wondering if there is anything I can do to help him feel safe and comfortable with me / in general. He obviously has some PTSD and fight or flight syndrome issues due to the abuse. I want to be sure I don't do anything to trigger him, as well as make sure he feels he's able to have a safe space with me. I have never dated anyone who was abused, and I was wondering wondering if there is anything I should know or do to make it go well for us. Any advice from someone who has been abused or someone who has dated an abuse victim would be much appreciated. He's very open about everything, which is a big help, but I care a lot about him and I would love to go the extra mile for him and make sure he feels happy and safe. Thanks in advance. Too long didn't read. Partner was abused growing up. I'm wondering how to make him feel comfortable and safe with me. I would personally do couples therapy, just to help both of you in the long run. Thank you for the idea. He is in therapy and we are relatively new to the relationship, but I think at some point down the road it would be beneficial to us both to do a session together. If things continue the way they are, which I truly hope they do, I'll ask if he'd like to do this. Thank you. Thank you for looking after him. As an abuse victim myself, I feel like even the thought of making him feel safe is a really good thing. Of course I wouldn't really write something you don't know, so I am sorry for that. It's of course speak to him. Understanding each other and imagining each other in certain situations is a big key to a healthy relationship. If you are angry at him, or vice versa, just sit down and talk through your problems. 2 hugs and love. I know it's obvious, but that's really helps, at least for me. 3 Be patient. If he doesn't want to talk about something, give him a bit of time, don't push too hard. 4 Outside help. I mean a psychiatrist. I know not everyone agrees on this. XOXO, I wish you a happy relationship. Thank you for confirming I'm doing something right by him and for the well wishes. I hope we can be happy too. I really want to be there for him and take care of him any way I can. I'll definitely try not to push him. Sometimes I feel like it's hard to walk the line between asking pushy questions and asking caring ones. That's something I'll have to work on personally. He's in therapy already and another user suggested a couples session if things continue, which I can definitely see happening, I hope. Thank you for the insight and for sharing. I hope you can heal from whatever it is you went through as well. My partner was abused growing up as well, foster home child for years. My advice would be to give both of yourselves some grace when it comes to difficult moments. You may not know you've triggered him and he may not openly express it in the moment. The discussion may come later when you're both in more calm mindsets. Don't be afraid to show emotion. You're human too, and walking on eggshells is not honest. I made that mistake a lot. Be prepared for him to possibly move slower in the vulnerability and trust department. That was a hard one to be patient for in my scenario. Above all else, communicate. That's so important for both of you to learn from what happens. Speaking from my own experience, just be a nice person and treat him right. That is all I ever wanted or needed from a partner. You can't solve his problems, and being away from it all and in a healthy relationship, he should heal over time. If he has PTSD, he would need to get treatment for it. I was physically, emotionally, and sexually abused growing up. Main problems that I still have are that I am bad at setting and enforcing boundaries, and that I will accept abusive behavior without being aware of it. I am only now working on those things because I wasn't aware I had those problems. I kept ending up in bad situations with abusive people. I also don't trust people and have terrible self-esteem. Your BF might want to work on those things in therapy if he finds he has those issues. Child abuse causes serious damage. I will never be the person I was supposed to be because of it. It is with me every day, and when someone is aggressive or abusive towards me, I feel like I am a helpless child again. I think if I had gotten good therapy and been around supportive people, I would have been okay. I hope he gets the treatment he needs while he is still young and can recover from it.